Awesome. Well, hi, Brian. I'm Mary Beth
Hey.
McAndrews from Dread Central. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
I'm so excited to be chatting with you today because I just feel like there aren't enough alien movies in this world, and you have delivered me an alien movie of my dreams. So, thank you
Oh,
so much
good.
for that. I would love to know your relationship with alien movies. Are you an alien movie head? Did aliens terrify you as a kid?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
I mean, I have a UFO tattoo too, so obviously
oh,
aliens have
sick.
had an effect on me. Yeah.
That's great. We have
Yeah.
UFOs. Uh, yeah, I was so all of it, head over heels with I think the first one I saw was ET for obvious reasons, and then obviously Star Trek. Um, and then yeah, just always, I feel like I live in hope of being abducted, or seeing something amazing, and then never getting a chance to. And so the movies have been that kind of gateway. But yeah, I mean, I can talk about the alien movies I love forever. It's why, it's like you kind of want to add your song to the album.
Oh yeah. Well, and I love the choice you've made here to like no dialogue, just a lot of heavy breathing and yelling and weird sounds. And I love that though, because again, like I feel like we are in a world where there's a lot of telling, like very explicitly. And this movie's a very awesome example of showing and not telling, especially with Bryn having such a tragic backstory. So I'd love to hear about that choice to really move away from dialogue and just having this really like physical experience that you have to watch and engage with, or you're going to miss all of the action.
Right. Yeah, I mean, part of it, like to what you said, was wanting to make the movie as hard for Bryn as possible. And I think one of the things
Sorry, this is great.
one of the things I don't love about a lot of alien invasion movies is like when they walk past the TV that kind of explains like what's going on in different parts of the world. I mean, I'll take it back. I think Signs does it incredibly well. Like one of the best scares ever is the birthday party in
Oh my
Signs.
god, that ruined
It's so
my life as
it's
a
so great.
child.
But
It's
maybe that's
so
it. I just didn't think I
good.
could top that. And then also I think it's scary that Caitlin doesn't know, like Caitlin only knows what she sees. Um, or Caitlin's character only knows what she sees. And so that just kind of became, it was never for me the focal point, and it was never the hardest part about making the movie. It was just kind of like this flavor of this is a character that's made this isolated bubble for herself that gets destroyed very early on in the movie. A lot of the
Yeah.
movie would be very inappropriate for her to talk or make any noise because she's trying to not die. And then yeah, it was just not giving her cheat codes with information, and then like this, it was just she has to kind of figure it all out on her own, like the title kind of alludes to. Um, and so it just kind of became like a little garnish in the creation of it, as opposed to, I didn't, when I started writing, I didn't know that was gonna
Yeah.
happen, and then it was kind of a fun discovery. So I hope it's a
Ugh.
discovery for other people too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, this whole movie is about Bryn and some
Yeah.
aliens, but Bryn really, like, we get to know, and again, like you set this really interesting tone with Bryn. She feels like she doesn't exist in our time. And the only way we know it's our time is you give us some time markers. Like, we are not in the 50s, but
Right.
she exists in such a bubble of her own creation for reasons. But I would just love to hear about developing Bryn's character and making those choices both in how she appears, but then also in her backstory and kind of
Mhm.
developing who she is as a character and the complexities of that character.
Yeah, and it's tricky to talk about without talking about spoilers. But
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
one of the things that Ramsey Avery, our production designer, and Caitlin and I talked about a lot is that Bryn is kind of like a 10-year-old's idea of what an adult is. Like that was like a jumping off point
Yeah.
for us, where it's a lot of like dinner parties. It's like nice it's like it's not, it's like she skipped past the like college thing and kind of went straight to the, what a she thinks like a 45-year-old would be. And then not really knowing any 45-year-olds, like that's kind of what her best guess is the movies. um that she likes. And it's when we had like a little bit of like her watching movies. Um, and so that we just cut just because we were just trying to get to the good stuff faster. But also it just even like her watching things kind of made it feel like she had buddies. That's the way it took it back. But it was but yeah, it was this idea like she's really cultivated this world. And so at the start of the movie, you might not understand where in time you are, and then you might see like, oh, she's got like a pretty flat TV. That's kind of strange. And then she goes into town and that looks pretty modern, and then she goes back home and it's very um kind of timeless, and she doesn't have a
A
cell
Hallmark
phone. Like,
store. At least her living room feels like a Hallmark store with all the little houses and stuff.
yeah,
Like idyllic and cute.
yeah, and even that came out of Ramsey and I. We like this idea that she's just building worlds,
So cool.
and kind of building these little places that get destroyed very quickly. But it
Yeah.
kind of ties in a lot with where the movie goes. But yeah, it was about this character who was a young woman but had kind of missed out on her childhood and adolescence, and then was kind of not pretending, but trying to make the best of a bad situation, and had done a lot of heavy lifting, and wanting the audience to kind of very quickly see like, oh, this is a very manicured. It's not, the movie is not being stylized like Bryn is being stylized, and then the outside world is very normal.
Yeah.
And so part of it was with Ramsey and Caitlin, who had a lot of thoughts on the matter too, was just about what's the quickest way to kind of understand like, oh, it's not the 50s. She's just trying to act like she's in the 50s. And then there's this whole
Yeah.
other reason for that. And I think when you watch the movie a second time, some of that stuff becomes really, really clear. Yeah, I hope.
I will say I did see on Letterboxd you log this so many times, and I love how you tracked the length and where you were at in the process in
Yeah.
Letterboxd. That might be my favorite way I've ever seen a filmmaker use the app. And I love your final review is I hope I never have to watch this movie all over
I haven't
again.
seen it since. I'm sure I will, but it was,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, but I love just how you use Letterboxd to track that, because as a new filmmaker myself, it's kind of cool to like you get to see the it's like kind of cool to see the progress, and
Right.
also nerve-wracking, I bet.
Yeah, it was just, it felt, I'm devoted to Letterboxd. And then
Same.
it felt weird. And then I had like things I had worked on that I couldn't post on Letterboxd. Like that was like specifically
Yeah.
said. And then I was the boss. So I just started doing it. And then I was like, oh, it's kind of interesting to see where the runtime is at. And then just by nature of seeing it so many times, and that's when I blogged it, it was only when I watched it start to finish. It wasn't like all the
Oh yeah, all the other countless
chunks.
times you watched clips and everything. Yeah.
And so yeah, and then you just start going. I start going crazy. Like I know, I think Chris Nolan watches the movie every Friday. Like that's his thing. Like for all the post, which I would just die. Um,
Oh,
and
thank
and
you. That
so
sounds masochistic behavior right
yeah, and I think
there.
Quentin
Yeah.
says it's like, I think he's like, you should watch it 4 times in total, and then you can enjoy it. And then we have so many visual effects and sounds, and it's not possible to watch it only 4 times. And so it was, I don't remember how many times it actually wound up. It's like 17 or something, I think. But yeah.
That's wild. Well, and I also, you talked about the visual effects, and I would love to hear about how you crafted your aliens. And because we know these are aliens, that's not a spoiler,
Yeah, it's
but
not
you
spoiler.
use that like gray alien, you take the gray alien template that we kind of all know, and you give it some special little tweaks. And so I was
Yeah.
just curious about like how you approach designing your take on the alien for the film.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote it as the Greys, always wanted to be the
Okay,
Greys. I
cool.
felt like I hadn't been given the Greys in so
No,
long.
people are so afraid to go to the gray now. They want to go full monster. And it's like
I
something
know.
creepy about a
Yeah,
good old gray man. The
yeah,
little
and I
gray
think,
man.
yeah, I think by nature of this movie, knowing the movie is basically going to start with face-to-face confrontation with
Yeah.
alien and then kind of go from there. It was like I really needed the alien to have a face, and I need the alien to have a face. I need Caitlin, as soon as she sees a glimpse of the alien, for her and the audience to go alien, like not man, not boogeyman, not it's like just instant alien. Um,
Yeah.
and and so it started from that point of like, okay, well, we're gonna show it's a gray pretty fast, and then it was like, okay, well, what are like the bonus features this guy can have, and knowing we would have different iterations kind of later on in the movie was really fun. But yeah, it was the fun of it was getting to take the keychain alien and give it a culture and dialogue that was like a huge part of it, and
Yeah.
giving it intelligence and all these different things, so that by the end of the movie, like not a lot is explained to Caitlin, or not, it's not subtitled at least, but really wanting a sense of like there's like a culture, there's a world, there's a hierarchy, there's religion, there's all
Yeah.
this different stuff. Like one of the things I talked to with the DNEG guys who designed it was, these are very they're very devout, but their God is the one true God. And so getting to like play with that idea of, we kind of have like a strange shaman-esque alien that Caitlin kind of ruins his performance, and he gets very mad at her. Just building out some of this culture. That was the fun of getting to start with a recognizable, silhouette, and then getting
Yeah.
to build off of it in a way that I had never seen before, and liking this idea of, these guys are, the conquerors that have come on ships, and it happens all throughout human history with people, and so why not aliens, and giving them their culture that they kind of start trying to imprint on humanity right away. Yeah, it just felt like there was a lot of fun to have there, and especially if you could start with that shorthand of like, I know what this is, and then you get surprised. Yeah.
I love that. And so before we wrap up, I would love to know perhaps the two scariest alien movies that you've ever seen to you that have terrified you.
The one is the number one is the abduction scene and Fire in the Sky, for sure.
Absolutely, always and
Always.
forever.
And that's why I didn't even go near that. Like even in the writing of it, I was just like, I'm not gonna go into any of that territory because it's unbeatable. Um, and then second, um, like scene or movie.
You know what? I'm gonna leave it up to you.
Uh, Probably. It's not like fully. I mean, the thing is very scary. Because you lose that aspect of yourself. But I would say maybe the scariest is Annihilation, in terms of like, it's so. I think there's something for me that's very scary about not being able to understand what's going on, and then also what I think is scary about Annihilation too is that it doesn't seem like the aliens understand what's going on. It just kind of seems like they're just like, this is a bizarre chemical reaction happening. And I think there's something really scary about that kind of invasion idea, where it's just kind of like, oh, we bumped into each other and now everything is broken or changing into something new. And I like that Annihilation, it feels like the aliens have no idea what they're doing, and they're just kind of along for the ride with humanity and with Florida. So that one to me feels like, oh, there's no negotiating. It's, they're also just
Yeah.
confused, and I think there's something really scary and interesting about that.
Oh, and you should read the books if you ever are
Yeah. Oh,
inclined and
I
have
love
time.
Jeff. Yeah.
So, anyway, Brian, this has been so awesome to chat with you about No One Will Save You. I'm so excited to have a good, just action-packed, scary alien movie again, especially for
Good. I'm
Halloween.
glad.